Welcome to episode 3 of A Well Story. We're about to jump in. For those of you that are new to the channel, what I do is document my net worth on a weekly basis and I share it with the community here. I've been doing this pretty rigorously for about a year now, but I've also gone all the way back, pulled all my bank statements, my investment records that I have from the accounts that I use, all the way back to when I first started. So what this is when I had graduated in 2017, and that's when I began my job. That's when I started documenting. So at that point, I was a little bit under with the student loans, quickly paid those off, and since then, I've been really bulking up on the saving and investing as much as possible given my income. Now, overall, things going well. 2019 was a tremendous year, and I'm really looking forward to 2020. I did not hit my super aggressive goal of 100,000, right? That's a little bit unfortunate, but overall, I'm still very much satisfied with how this year went. There were a lot of sacrifices. There were a lot of times I said no about spending money. And overall, I think that really paid off because at this point, we just went through the holidays, a lot of expenses and stuff, but I'm doing very well for myself and I'm happy with this and I'm grateful for what's going on in these accounts. We'll see what happens. Maybe by February, I'll be lucky enough to say that I'm at 6 figures. So who knows? Stay tuned. Regardless, that's where we're at right now. I'll do one video next week in which I'll talk about my investing strategy for FY20, what I plan to do, where I plan to put my money. Most likely, that'll be broken up into one strategy that involves me not buying a house, just in case that doesn't happen, and one strategy that involves me buying a house. Because it's a little bit tough right now. I've actually put a couple offers on places, but I haven't been lucky enough to land one yet. So it's something that could happen as soon as within the next month, or it might not happen for another 7 months. So that's a little bit tricky to deal with for planning on what I'll do in the year 2020, but we'll see what happens. Aside from that, things are going really well. One more episode before the year ends. I hope everyone's doing great. Enjoy your holidays. The only thing I am going to talk about today, and it relates very much to the previous episode, episode 2, if you didn't check that out, feel free to. It was discussing the power of 20 bucks. That $20 if you spend it and how much money you're actually spending and the potential value of that dollar if you save it. And it's pretty cool to see what the difference is between those two things. It's a frame of mind, it's a perspective about money and the way that you spend and save it. Overall, my perspective, at least for me, has worked well. I try to balance saving and investing as much as possible while still enjoying life and not being a miser. But sometimes you kind of have a difficult line to draw there in making sure that you're having a fulfilling life while still making sure that you're actually setting all that money aside for growth. So overall, things have been going well. I'll experience some challenges in FY20 with buying a house, but when that time comes, I'll share as much as I can. Now, jumping into what I was talking about with compounding wealth and the importance of time, how time is essentially more important than money. A lot of people think that the only way to get wealthy is to make a large income. And sure, that certainly helps because it allows you to save and invest more. But I'd rather be someone that is financially conservative, knows how to save and to invest, rather than someone that makes a lot of money in a year. Now, we're going to be talking about a couple different scenarios here. One is a lump sum deposit of $5,000 at various ages, like you see here. Another one is talking about a $5,000 a year investment. So this means a contribution of $5,000 every single year from whatever the starting year is. So for each of these ages, we're going to be seeing what the difference is. And then lastly, we're looking at playing catch up. Basically, if you wanted to tie the 20-year-old, if you wanted to reach what their end goal was, how much more would you have to invest at various ages in order to do so? And that's probably the most important concept here is that the longer you wait, the more you have to invest. And it gets very difficult to do that. So start early, start often, invest frequently. Dollar cost average, I'll probably have a video on that too, but let's jump into these really quick. Okay, let's say you're 20 years old, you invest $5,000. What does that turn into? Well, you'd have a pretty cool $105,000 by 65. Not bad considering that was your only investment. Now, the scary part is the longer you wait, the less you have, just like we just said. So this bottom row number 52, we're talking about percentage less than the 20-year-old. So if you wait just 5 years till you're 25, which is what I am right now, the money that is created or the money that compounds to your end value, is 28% less had you invested 5 years earlier at 20 years old. Now, even scarier is that if you wait just 10 years, wait till you're 30. So now at this point, maybe in your life, you have a stable job, maybe you have what we consider a career that you're building, you're making more money. You also probably have a spouse, so there's a little bit more money available to spend time on things that you enjoy, more so than just necessities. At this point, if you waited till you were 30, now your money that's been created by the time you're 65 is 49% less, just because you waited 10 years, right? And 10 years is a long time when you think about it. So, I mean, you lost out on a lot of your money by just waiting. So think about that when you're young, you don't have that much money. The money that you have is still extremely valuable because it's going to grow so much more with compounding, more so than the dollars that are in your hand, the cash that you feel. The $5,000 might not seem like much, but when you're only 20, that $5,000 is worth so much more. So we can see this on the graph here. It's not linear. It compounds. It grows up. You lose so much money by waiting. And this is the same investment, $5,000 in each of these ages. So let's jump into another scenario. The second one, very similar. It's just that we're going to be diligent investors and invest $5,000 every single year from each of these ages. Now, in this case, it's very similar in terms of the results, but what you'll notice right off the bat is that these values are larger. That being a diligent investor is extremely important. Keeping up with that is very, very important, but starting earlier is even more important, right? Because we look at this and we say the 30-year-old, now they're a diligent investor. They start at 30, they're investing $5,000 a year, and their sum at the end is pretty significant. That's awesome. They're getting close to, $750,000. That's great. What you'll notice is that this is 51.45% less than what the 20-year-old had. They had about 1.5 million. Now, jumping back into the previous scenario, you'll notice that they had 49.17% less. So the point I'm making here is that your compounding had a greater effect when it's done in larger amounts of money and more often. So just keep that in mind. And as we go down the line here, things get worse and worse and worse, that if you don't start till you're 50, you basically have 90% less money, even more so. So this is a scary graph, but it's a strong reminder to invest early and often. Now the last one, which highlights and kind of encapsulates this whole point of investing early and often and using time more so than money, is playing catch up. Because in the beginning, like we were talking about before, when you have $5,000 in your hand and you're only 20 years old, you need to spend that money. In most cases, you need to spend it on rent or other expenses or just having fun with friends to enjoy life. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, who doesn't want to go on a spring break trip, right? But when we think about this in terms of reality and what actually happens, that we will have to retire someday, that we will need that money for healthcare, our kids' college fund, or whatever it may be, it's nice to build the foundation as early as possible because that foundation will grow more so than you can contribute to it, right? And that's the point we're trying to make here. If you wait 5 years or 10 years or 20 years, you have to put in so much more money just to match what you would have had if you had done it earlier. So going back to this, we have a 20-year-old. He puts in $5,000. At 65, he has $105,000. Now the question is, how much more would you have to put in later on in order to match that $105,000? So we calculated this. We went through each of these ages to make sure that these sums or end values came out to be the same. And the bottom part here, which is scarier than the other graphs because it's in percentages, is that the catch-up percentage. So it jumps up. You wait just 5 years, you have to contribute 40% more. You have to contribute $7,000. If you wait 10 years, you have to contribute almost $10,000. So now you have to contribute 96% more at 30 years old rather than 20 years old to match what you would have had if you had done it when you were 20. So just let that sink in for a moment. Just think about that. If you wait 10 years, you have to contribute 90% more in order to make up for what you would have had you invested 10 years earlier when you were 20. That's terrifying. That scares me. That keeps me up at night. I think about that all the time. Your dollars when you're in your 20s are so, so valuable. And you know what? They are with your 30s too. So don't get dejected and say, well, I'm 30 or I'm 35 or I'm 40. That still has tremendous value. The problem is when you get to 50 or 60, your money can't compound because there's no time there, which is what this is all about. The fact of the matter is the time compounds your money. The money doesn't compound. You need time and the money for it to actually grow, for you to build wealth, for you to actually have those giant buckets growing for your retirement, college funds, whatever your life goals are. So keep that in mind. Think about it. I'm getting excited for 2020, and these episodes are, I don't know, they're just keeping me motivated. So hopefully they work for you guys too. Let me know in the comments if you actually enjoy this stuff or there's more that I can dive into, go a little deeper. I think in the future I'd love to have more episodes where I'm talking about dollar cost averaging and the importance of frequent investments for growing wealth. I've enjoyed this, and we're only 3 episodes in here. We're growing a very small community, but things are going well. If you like this, feel free to like and subscribe to the video. I really appreciate it, and as we grow this channel, I think we can hopefully convince people to put a little bit more aside to invest because it's working. And part of that's just the market, but things have been going well, so hopefully we can do so in 2020 as well. Have a great day, guys. I will catch up with you next week.